Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Wednesday drawing session with me, Frank Cho. There's my trusty Pentel mechanical pencil with zero point 0.7 HB millimeter lead, my kneaded eraser, and here's my favorite paper to draw on, Strathmore Bristolboard 300 series with vellum surface. Love the vellum surface. I just want to apologize for my voice. I just got back from New York Comic Con and I caught a little bit of a cold, so my voice is kind of my throat's a little sore right now. So anyway, today I am gonna join. Join. I'm gonna draw Shredder from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So, if you guys know Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it was a crazy cult comic book from the 80s, which kind of exploded into this cultural phenomena. Um, and actually, it's actually really fun. It's a really fun concept and cartoon. So Shredder is the main villain, and I think they base the villain on a cheese grater, if I remember correctly. They thought it would be funny if the villain had this kind of like this cheese grater thing as an armor, and they decided to call it Shredder. So I already had a pose in mind. Shredder, is basically looking very gnarly and menacing, and he's kind of pretty much have knocked out one of the turtles, and so he's kind of standing over the turtles. So once I have the mental image in mind, I basically will try to figure it out how to put it on paper. So rarely, the image I have in mind is completely transferred onto the paper. It's a bit of a struggle, and this drawing of Shredder was no different. So when you first draw Shredder, he has this kind of like a samurai helmet. To me, it actually looked like kind of like a Nova helmet from the Marvel comics. And he has this gnarly shoulder pads full of blades, and also on his arms and legs. So I'm basically trying to get the basic pose down, which is fairly a kind of like a power pose. It's a fairly generic power pose. I mean, with the blade, with that shredding blade in his hand, and it almost looked like it could almost be like a Wolverine pose. So there it is on his forearm. He has this kind of this shredding blade. There I am drawing the shoulder pad with the blades. Now, many of you guys don't know, Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtles were originally inspired by Frank Miller's Daredevil run. So in the early 80s, Frank Miller wrote and drew the Daredevil series, and he basically introduced the ninja into the comic book, the whole comic book industry. So, I mean, in the 80s, ninja craze was just crazy. I mean, ninja stuff was just popping up everywhere. And Frank Miller brought that into the comics during his Daredevil tenure. So in Frank Miller's Daredevil, you have the Hand Clan, those ninja assassin clan. They're called the Hand, and Daredevil was trained by Stick. It's this blind martial arts master, straight out of 1970s kung fu films. So it's actually really cool. I mean, Frank Miller was on fire during the 80s. I mean, I've never seen a guy who who was so influential and such a power. as a writer and as an artist than Frank Miller in the 80s. So anyway, so Frank Miller, so the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle guys, Peter Laird and Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, they were big fans of Frank Miller, so they basically essentially a parody. So when Matt Murdock kind of pushed the old man out of the way of a truck that was carrying these toxic chemical, and which kind of spilled onto Matt Murdock and gave him heightened, well, actually made him blind, but also gave him heightened physical senses and turned him into Daredevil. So so Eastman and Laird basically took that same concept and have that chemical spill into the into the sewer where there's four turtles and and shoot and the rat. So so it's actually kind of funny. So so the rat and the turtles were exposed to the same chemical that turned Matt Murdock into Daredevil, and that's how the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle became. And the rat that became their mentor, their sensei, was named Splinter. So it was kind of like a play on word from Stick. So Stick was Daredevil's teacher, and Splinter were the teacher of the turtles, which I thought was kind of funny. Uh, and as as things went along, Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman kind of downplayed the Frank Miller Daredevil connection. But yeah, but that's the origin of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Yeah, so this is a design. The costume design is from the original, I guess, the comic book or cartoon. So over the years, Shredder became his costume have evolved. Where it's kind of like Iron Man. He became more and more armored, and actually, he as physically he actually grew taller. I mean, I think at this point he's like 7 feet tall, full of muscle, with like blades coming out of every surface of his of his, of his body. But this is the basically the original costume design, which is more simple and easier to draw. So I'm drawing the shoulder pads. I can never figure out how that shoulder pads kind of stayed up there on the shoulders. So when I draw stuff, I try to think how physically is possible, but sometimes you just have to like just go with it. Just giving that little claws. Going, adding the working on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles head. Boy, my voice sounds really rough. Man, almost sound like a radio DJ. This is Shadow Stevens coming to you live. And there's I guess the bandana that they wear around their eyes, and that kind of sticks out in the back. And the shoulder muscle. So the shoulder muscle is, you have to remember the shoulder muscle is divided into three big muscles. So, you have the posterior, anterior, and the middle. Um, that's how the deltoid is divided. So keep that in mind. And unlike last time, I remember this time that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they have two fingers and a thumb, not three fingers and a thumb like I did last time. Also, like Yoda. So I screwed up last week. I drew Yoda, and I drew him with three fingers and a thumb when I supposed to, when Yoda only has two fingers and a thumb. The guy who draws these like really great angle shots, especially around the shoulder area, is Neil Adams. I can't say enough good things about Neil Adams. I loved him as a kid growing up, and I still love him. Still love his art as an adult, as a seasoned professional adult. I've always, every time I get stuck on something, I look at Neil Adams stuff for inspiration and figure out how he did it. Yeah, so I guess like like there are like a handful of like guys that I look at all the time. So Neil Adams is one. Um, John Buscema is another one. Garcia Lopez, Frank Frazetta. I look at Frank Frazetta stuff all the time, and Al Williamson. I love Al Williamson, and Franklin Booth. Those are the guys that I often look at all the time. So once I have the main figures down, the main drawings down, I just go in and lightly erase everything because the first pass is very sketchy. So by lightly erasing everything, I just kind of get rid of all the stray marks and all that. But it gives me like a faint underlying drawing of the original sketch. So using the underlined faint sketch, I go ahead and kind of like darken, go over it with darker lines, and just tighten everything up. Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a neat freak when it comes to drawings. I like my drawings to be very clean, especially inking. When I'm inking, I like things to be very, very clean. I guess that's why I'm a big fan of Franklin Booth because all of his ink lines are just precise and surgical and very well thought out. Yeah, I wasn't sure if he has like a mask, if the mask that he's wearing is a cloth or is actually a like an armored plate. I just assumed it's gonna. So I just kind of like cheated a little bit, and so I made it into a kind of like a hockey mask. It's kind of like a very light material, not cloth, but almost like a light plastic material. Yeah, it's actually kind of funny how Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird came up with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I mean, they were just a couple of kids just having fun making these independent comics. They're just drawing for fun, throwing like goofy ideas. It's always great when you hear stories about that. Just a couple of kids just having fun, and then something clicks, and then turn into this cultural phenomena. Oh, here's a funny story about Kevin Eastman. So I was lucky to know Kevin Eastman and had grab meals with him over time. So Kevin Eastman, when he made it big with the Mutant Ninja Turtles, he actually appeared in a couple of like low budget movies. If anyone know who Andy Sidaris is, Back in the 90s, he would make these basically uh, B action movies. I guess Andy Sidaris is kind of like the Russ Meyer of the 1990s. So if you guys, I mean, I'm not going to explain who Russ Meyer is or Andy Sidaris. You know, you guys have to look it up. But Kevin Eastman starred in two of those Andy Sidaris movies because his then wife, Julie Strain, was used to appear in a lot of Andy Sidaris movies. So if you guys know who Julie Strain is, you know, you guys know what kind of movies Andy Sidaris made. So yeah, I mean, so I'm not gonna uh, go beyond that because I don't want to get kicked off YouTube. But it's fun. So if next time you guys see Kevin Eastman asking about his time doing Andy Sidaris action films, and also tell him that Frank Cho sent them. Showing that forearm, kind of adding in the veins. Yeah, don't go too crazy when drawing the veins. You know, kind of be more like Frazetta. Don't be like Simon Bisley, where it's just go too overboard with the veins and all that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, Simon Bisley is absolutely one of my favorite artists of all time. But don't go too overboard. So adding that shoulder pad. Yeah, I was looking at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle cartoons, and I was like trying to figure out how that shoulder pad is attached. And there's no attachment. There's no straps or anything. It almost looks like it's just glued right onto the shoulders. I mean, that's hilarious. So when I heard that the shredder is based on a cheese grater, that's how they thought of the villain shredder. I actually that was a stroke of genius. It's just so funny. It's always funny how people come up with certain things, the origin story of certain things. It's always fascinating to me. Yeah, so in the Daredevil, Frank Miller's Daredevil run, the Ninja Clan is called the Hand, and in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle franchise universe, uh, the Ninja Clan is called the Foot Clan. So it's again, there's so many uh, parody of Frank Miller's run on Daredevil. There, I'm drawing the claws. It's actually fascinating how much of a influence Wolverine had in so many characters. I mean, just looking at Shredder, in some ways, he was influenced by Wolverine because Wolverine had these claws in his hand, in his hands. And from Wolverine, you have, I guess, to a certain degree, Shredder, and you have Ripclaw from the Image Comics, Cyberforce, and then you have Lady Deathstrike who is another ninja assassin with these giant clawed hands. Sabretooth. And also there was a character called Grips back in the 80s who had who was a Wolverine knockoff, and he had these claws in his hands for fighting. Yeah, it's actually, the more I think about it, I mean, Wolverine has there's so many characters, comic book characters that was inspired by Wolverine. Just kind of rubbing in that graphite. So Shredder has this, I guess, kind of like a tunic that he wears that is cinched up by a sash around his waist. Drawing that leg. I'm trying to make that leg kind of like forward. And I'm drawing the other leg. I want to try to make that leg kind of back a little bit. So the one on the left is kind of, that leg is coming forward, and the one on the right is kind of like posed kind of back. So to do that is fairly easy. You kind of like shade the leg that is kind of in the back position. Drawing an arm, drawing that head. I mean, that pose is kind of tricky, where the turtle is kind of lying face down, coming at you. You'd say it's kind of like a forced perspective pose. Those are really hard to do. And drawing the hand, two fingers and a thumb. And drawing the elbow pad. And again, the shoulder. And then that shell. So it's another tricky part, because I guess the shell is just like attached to the back. I mean, there is no connecting tissue or strap that kind of like that holds the shell in place. drawing the muscled arm, adding the elbow pad. Has that pad at the point of the elbow pad, and the forearm. I mean, the king of forced perspective drawing is Neil Adams. I can again. I am just. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but Neil Adams is absolutely fantastic. I mean, you just can't wrong studying Neil Adams back in his prime in the 60s and 70s. Oddly enough, I mean, I first noticed Neil Adams from his Tarzan covers. So back in the 70s, he did a series of Tarzan covers when they were reprinting Tarzan. And so Neil Adams was doing comics and comic books in the 60s and 70s. And then by early 70s or mid 70s, he left comics to go into advertising, and which he made a killing. I mean, there's if you can do like advertising well, I mean, if you go work in advertisement, I mean, you can make like a really good living, unlike comics. So he already left the comic business, and he actually started doing advertisement and book covers and all that. And so that's where I first noticed or found out about Neil Adams. I didn't even see his comics until in the 80s, when I was a kid. And DC Comics started reprinting a lot of his Neil Adams stuff, like Dead Man, Green Lantern and Green Arrow, Batman. So, but my first exposure to Neil Adams art was his Tarzan covers, and they were just absolutely fantastic. They were just, he did basically like a colored drawing with, well, they're not really drawings. I mean, they're like watercolor paintings, and they were absolutely fantastic. And then through Neil Adams, I discovered Garcia Lopez. So after Neil left, he left this giant void in the DC Comics, and I've always thought that Garcia Lopez was the heir to Neil Adams at DC Comics, and Garcia Lopez came in and just took over, essentially like picked up where Neil Adams left off, and he just like kind of like established the DC look in the 70s and 80s. So yeah, I mean, like Garcia Lopez has such a very clear storytelling. I mean, his stuff is also like absolutely incredible. There I am drawing the shell with the shell kind of design on his back. Adding some texture to the shell rim. Adding some blood there. For cape and draperies and stuff like that, I look at a lot of sculpture. So I highly recommend, if you want to learn how to draw drapes and stuff like that, is to look at sculptures like especially 19th century sculptures. So you have a lot of great sculptors from that era, from 18 and 19 century. I mean, one of my favorite sculptor was Carpo. So Carpo was a master sculptor. And also, there's tons of sculptors I love. I think that's what I would have become if I wasn't, if I didn't get into drawing and painting. I think I would have become a sculptor. Something about sculpture is just so, I don't know, it's so beautiful. So when you're drawing cape, you're just drawing. Think of it as like a big, giant mass that you can just kind of like push and pull and twist to kind of like help balance the overall composition. Kind of rubbing in the graphite to kind of give that soft look. Shading in the By shading the cape, it kind of like forces that cape into the background. So I decided that this turtle is Raphael. So he has that sigh that he uses. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sigh. Same weapon that Elektra uses in Daredevil. Yeah, I decided to kind of have that sigh because that area was kind of like blank. So I needed something there. So I decided to put the sigh there that kind of like balance the composition, and also the angle of the side. It kind of points toward the fallen figure. Just darkening everything, reinforcing the lines. Just adding some debris. Just adding some little, quick texture on the ground. Just make the ground a little bit more interesting. Little blood marks. Adding more shadows around the eyes to give it that kind of the menacing look. Adding the veins. Just adding more shadows. Adding some texture. Adding some scratch marks on his leg. A little bit of battle damage. And looking around. And I forgot to draw the leg. I forgot to draw part of Raphael's leg in the background. Just adding the shadows. A little touch up. And there it is. Shredder from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He just defeated Raphael. Hope you guys enjoyed it. See you next week.